Today I'm going to put my neck on the line and say Tim Gurner was right. He just worded it poorly. To refresh your minds, Tim Gurner was at an Australian Financial Review property summit and he made comments along the lines of unemployment needs to go up 40 to 50%, employees aren't as productive as what they should be, and there needs to be a rebalance of power between employers and employees. So who is Tim Gurner? He's a guy who's worth around $750 million if the Fin Review Rich List is to be believed, and he's only 41 years old. So for someone to have built that kind of wealth at that age, he's actually really, really young. So he's a pretty easy punching bag for the media, a young person with exceptional wealth. Is it a good idea for me to defend him? I don't know, but I think he's right, and I'm going to explain to you why and what it means for you and your business. His first comment, unemployment needs to increase by 40 to 50%. He's not saying unemployment needs to go to 50 or 40%, he's saying it needs to increase by that amount. So unemployment at the moment is around 3.7%. If you increase that by 50%, it gets to 5.5%. If you've read any economic literature in the past, just about every government in the world talks about natural unemployment, and the natural unemployment rate is around 5 to 6%. The belief is between 5 and 6%, it's a healthy balance between a strong economy and a balance between employers and employees at that 5 to 6% mark. This doesn't mean that governments want specific individuals out of work, but think about who makes up the unemployment numbers. Firstly, there's a percentage of our population that unfortunately due to physical or mental challenges can't work to begin with. There's also people who aren't willing to work for good or for bad reasons. A good reason being they want to raise their family and stay at home. Bad reasons because I want to stay at home and eat potato chips and do whatever else with my time. And there's also natural level of transition. There are people between jobs, people between opportunities, or just want to take a little period off between that. And that gets you your 5 and 6%. The problem when you're down to 3.5% leads to his second comment. The second comment being the lack of productivity by employees. This is where I do feel a little sorry for Tim because his comments were made at a summit in a Q&A type forum. And you might find this hard to believe, but this video you're watching right now is not me just riffing this and rolling this off the tongue without any edits. I know you find that probably really hard to believe. So he's up there trying to answer the question the best way he possibly can. But he is right, productivity does need to improve. The first thing I want to say though is the vast majority of employees do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. But when you're talking around the margins, it doesn't take too many people to drift into the unproductive area to have quite a significant impact on businesses and as a result of that on the economy. What are the two drivers of productivity? It is the cost of somebody and it's the output of somebody. If there's a disproportionate increase in their cost relative to their output, there's going to be somebody who loses. That's either the business through increasing costs or through the economy where people have to pay more for their product or service. Therefore, if we increase the cost of somebody without increasing the value of what they're creating, that poses a problem. Remember, most businesses are doing really well if they're making 10% profit on their revenue. So if there's a 3-4% change in labor productivity, you can see how quite quickly that impacts the bottom line and the chances of a business surviving through periods like this. Which then leads to his third comment, the need for the balance of power between employers and employees to get to more of an equilibrium. Now it's very easy to beat up on the minority versus the majority. There's clearly far fewer business owners in the world than there are employees. So if you go to defend the business owners and potentially have a go at the employees, naturally the numbers are going to be against you. But I believe what he's saying is, as I said earlier, most people do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. It's the fractions around the edges that are hurting it for everyone else. Because if there isn't a balance between the two, what happens? People don't rock up to work one day because the weather's nice and they'd rather go to the beach, and they have no fear of repercussion around losing their job because they're like, well, who's going to replace me? They don't rock up to the work site because someone rang them that morning and said, hey, this job, I'll pay you $80 an hour, and the person they're working for currently pays them $75 an hour. That business rocks up thinking that they're going to do the job, and then all of a sudden they're not there. That has a significant pain on the business. And do you know who it also hurts? It's the people who are doing the honest day's work for the honest day's pay, because they have to pick up the slack for the other people who aren't delivering. So we can say, oh, poor me for the business owner who's worth $750 million. But the ultimate outcome is we all pay for this through the inflation, through a lack of performance by other team members where we have to pick up the slack, and just the sheer stress and frustration. And the reality is, Gurner works in the property sector, and construction is the area, in my experience over the last 2 to 3 years, that has been most impacted by people not rocking up, people turning away work at very quick notice after accepting work, and just because it's a nice day, I don't feel like going to work. What's the importance of this for me as a business owner? Thanks, Brendan, you've just riffed for the last few minutes complaining about what was or wasn't said and how it was or wasn't interpreted. But it talks about the importance of culture within your business. That culture needs to be harbored, whether the balance of power is for the employers at the point in time or for the employees at that point in time. If you treat your employees with respect, build a strong culture of autonomy while giving them a structure to thrive in, you can build an exceptional workforce where, hey, you're not going to have every single person being an absolute superstar, but you can get a really high portion of them working the way you want them to. Interested in your thoughts? Might be controversial, might be really obvious what I've said today, but keen for your thoughts, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.